Chris Graham here for Trailblazer RV. We're going to take you through a new RV orientation on this 2019 Sportsmen LE 281 BHKLE. Starting right here at the front of the trailer, where you've got your propane system and battery system. You can lift up the access panel on the top to access the propane valves, or you can remove the whole cover to access the bottles themselves. These are dual 20-pound propane tanks. They're both full right now, and they've got an automatic switchover propane regulator. So right now you can see the supply arrow pointing at this bottle, making this the supply and this the reserve bottle. If we open the supply bottle, the center sight glass here is changed from red to clear, showing that there's propane flowing from the supply bottle. What we recommend is opening both bottles. Then the regulator will deplete the supply bottle first, then automatically switch over and start to pull from the reserve bottle. When that happens, the sight glass will turn from green or clear back to red, and at that point you can use the selector to switch over to the other bottle, remove the first bottle to go and refill it without ever shutting down your propane system. Your 12-volt battery is right here. This one has a battery upgrade. So it's a 12-volt deep cycle RV marine battery. This is an RV31, and it's a flooded wet cell battery, so it does require a little bit of maintenance. You'll need to remove this black sticker to expose 6 caps underneath here. If you open up each of those caps once or twice a year and just check the fluid level in there, in those cells. If any of them seem a little bit low, and especially if you can see metal plates sticking through the liquid, you'll want to top up the liquid in those cells with some distilled water. This one also has an optional solar charging system installed on it. The red wire going to the positive and the green wire going to the negative are the solar panel leads, and the black wire going to the negative and the red wire going to the positive are the leads from the RV. So reds to positive, blacks and greens to negative. Behind the battery is a battery disconnect switch, so you can turn it to the off position to kill all of the battery power from the trailer. Or you can turn it back to the on position to engage the battery. In this particular setup, the solar panel is installed independently of the battery disconnect. So even when your battery is disconnected, the solar panel is still charging your battery. Here around the side is your pass-through storage compartment. This is where you'll find your 30 amp power cord. We supply the adapter to adapt the 30 amp down to a conventional 15 amp household power supply. So you can plug this into a 15 amp circuit. And also in here is where you'll find your access for your water pump. So there's one screw here that just needs to be removed, as we've already done. And you can open up this panel to access the water pump. This is where you'll access your siphon line for antifreeze. So when you go to pump antifreeze through here in the winter, or when you winterize, open this valve for the siphon line and close this valve for the tank suction, and then you can use your siphon line to pump directly from a jug of antifreeze through the water system. This is also where you'll fill your fresh water. Right from here, you can gravity fill your fresh tank with a garden hose, or what we recommend is one of those white drinking water specific hoses, so you don't get the plasticky taste in your water. You can also hook up to pressurized city water if you're staying at a site that has water hookups. If you're going to hook into pressurized city water, we recommend using a water pressure regulator. It's just a little brass piece about that long that fits on the end of your hose and maintains proper operating water pressure in the water system. At all 4 corners of the trailer, you've got stabilizer jacks So once you've got the trailer parked in place and relatively level, you can crank these down to be snug with the ground, but you don't want to actually lift the RV with them. They're not designed to take up that much weight. So just snug with the ground to take some of the side-to-side motion out of the RV. The other thing underneath here that you'll find is your freshwater tank drain. And that valve is open now, so when you want to drain your freshwater tank, just open the valve like so. I'll close it for now so that the tank is ready to fill. Right here is where you will dump your second gray holding tank. You have two sewer connections on this trailer, one in the front and one in the back. Only one valve here, and it's for gray water. On the back one you have a gray valve and a black valve. Here at your running gear, your tires are inflated to 80 psi. You'll find it stamped on the side of the tire, 80 psi cold, and we do recommend running them right at 80 psi. Also recommend periodic retorquing of your wheel nuts and periodic repacking of your wheel bearings. This one is equipped with Easy Lube axles, so you can pop this center cap off with a flathead screwdriver to expose a grease zerk, and you can use a grease gun to grease your inner and outer wheel bearings. Easy Lube axles don't eliminate the need to repack your wheel bearings, but instead of repacking your wheel bearings every year, maybe you repack your wheel bearings every 3 or 4 years, as long as you are periodically giving them some fresh grease. Here's your main sewer connection. So we supply a 20-foot sewer hose, a medium heavy-duty sewer hose. It's stored right now in the rear bumper. When you go to dump your holding tanks, hook your sewer hose onto here. Other end goes into the ground. Always dump the larger black valve first. That's your sewer. And then once that's finished dumping, close this valve and dump your smaller gray valve. That'll use your gray water, your sink and shower water, to flush the contents through that hose, so there's nothing left in there when you go to disconnect it. Remember to dump your second gray holding tank up the front as well. When you're dumping your black holding tank, you can hook a hose up right here. This is your black tank flush system. So if you've got a garden hose hooked up to here, preferably a different hose than you use for your city water connection, it'll spray out the inside of that black water holding tank and keep the monitor probes clean so that your monitor panel reads accurately. But you'll only want to have a hose hooked up to here and turned on while you have this black valve open. Otherwise, you're just filling your tank with fresh water. Right here is where your 30 amp power cord connects. We found that in the front storage compartment. And here on the back of the trailer is where your spare tire's mounted. It's important to note that the trailer doesn't come with a jack or a wheel wrench. So always, you should make sure that you've got a wrench along with you that fits these wheel nuts, just in case you do need to change a tire on the fly. Your cargo tray is good for 250 pounds. That includes the weight of the tire, so about an extra 200 pounds. Just folds down like so and pins in place. Behind the cargo tray is your hot water tank. So we can open this up to access the hot water tank. It's a gas electric hot water tank, so you can run it on electricity if you're plugged into power. In order to do that, you'll need to turn this black rocker switch to the on position, which it is right now. There's a second switch to run the tank on electricity located inside as well. This is also where you'll drain the water from the tank in the winter when you go to winterize. You do that by pulling this plug out of the bottom. It's a 1 1/16 inch socket, and on the end of that plug you'll find a rod about this long. It's your sacrificial anode rod. Its purpose is to corrode over time to preserve the inside lining of the tank. So it can get quite pitted and corroded looking after a few years, and it will eventually need to be replaced. Depending on the quality of the water, typically every 3 to 4 years you'll need to replace your anode rod. Before you pull the anode rod out, make sure to use the pressure relief valve to bleed the pressure off the tank so that it's not under pressure when you remove the valve, or when you remove the plug. The other thing that's on the outside of the hot water tank here are 2 black reset buttons. These are safety features if the tank ever overheats. Most likely if it's ever started up with no water in it, you'll have to come out here and reset these 2 ECOs before the tank will start up again. Here on the camping side, you've got your outside shower, pretty simple with hot and cold taps, and the shower head extends to about this high. And right here is your outside kitchen. So the fridge in your outside kitchen is 110 volt powered only. It'll only work when you're plugged into power. The stovetop extends just like so. This is propane powered, and you do have to hook up the propane line for this. So you'll find right underneath here, somewhere right here, a quick connect propane line. And that actually pulls out a little further for easy access to that. You can connect the quick connect hose to here and underneath the trailer to allow propane to flow. And there is also a valve both on the trailer and on the hose that'll have to be open in order for propane to flow. You'll have to remove that hose again, put the stove away. Right here is your fridge vent. So this panel can be removed to access the back of the fridge for repair or cleaning, but mostly just a vent. The fridge needs some airflow to work properly, so you shouldn't really need to get into there very often. Another vent here is your furnace vent, and this can get very hot. So just make sure if you've got young kids around the trailer, they know to stay away from that. The steps for the RV are the LCI solid steps, so they just fold right up into the door frame like this. To put the steps down, just use the handle here to release them from the door frame, and they fold down. These legs are adjustable in height. If you're on a site that's very unlevel, you can change the height of those legs to adjust the step. And we'll go ahead and run the awning out. The awning's controlled from just inside the door, right here. And if we press and hold the awning extend button, the awning will extend a full 8 feet, and it's a height adjustable awning. So as soon as it's extended, I'll show you how to do that. You don't have to extend it the full 8 feet. You can stop it at any point if there was a tree or another RV in the way. Once it's fully extended, both arms are adjustable, and you can adjust them by pulling down on the lower arm. That'll pitch the awning so that one end is lower than the other, so you can control where the rainwater drains off. Before you retract the awning, you want to put both arms back up to the full height. That'll ensure that the canvas rolls up straight on the roller tube. And if you come on inside, I'll show you a few more things around the inside of the trailer. So right here next to the awning extend switch is the slide out room switch. So to run our slide out, we'll just press and hold the out button. This is a flush floor slide, so it kind of sinks down as it starts to travel out, and again when it reaches the full extension it'll sink down a little bit to make a flush transition with the floor. And when you hear that ratcheting sound, you know the slide is fully extended. Right above those switches are a couple of blue backlit switches. one for your awning light that runs the length of the awning canvas, and one for your interior light above the slide-out. The third switch is for your main bank of interior lights. We'll leave those on. Come around to the kitchen. Here in the kitchen, you've got a 3-burner propane stovetop. All 3 of these burners can be lit using the piezo sparker. And this is the first thing we recommend you do after changing out a propane bottle. Anytime you've had the propane bottles disconnected from the system, you could get some air into the propane system. So if you come here and light all 3 of these burners, you know you've bled that air off the system, and your automatic appliances like your fridge, furnace, and hot water tank will have no problem lighting. To light your oven, your piezo sparker will work for that as well. So turn the oven knob over to the little pilot, press in and hold on that knob, and while holding that knob in, you can use the piezo sparker. It's been a while since the last time you lit your oven. You have to hold that knob in for quite a while. There's very little propane coming through there, so it takes some time to bleed the air off. Once you see a flame, as there is right now, keep holding in the knob for 10 or 15 seconds to heat up the flame sensor, and then you can turn the oven up to temperature. Once you're finished using the oven, you can turn the knob back to pilot and just leave it in the pilot position, or turn it all the way off and simply relight the pilot next time you need it. The switch right here is to activate your blue LED backlit stove knobs. Your fridge is an automatic gas electric fridge, so we'll just turn it on, and with the mode button, select A for automatic. When it's in automatic mode, it'll always check for electricity first, and it'll run on electricity if it's available. If there's no electricity available, like right now, it senses that and it switches over to gas mode. You can override the automatic to only run on electricity or only run on propane, and you may find that the fridge cools a little bit faster running on propane than it does on gas, or on electricity, running on propane than it does on electricity. Having said that, it still takes several hours to cool an RV fridge down, so you'll want to get that fridge started up and cooling, preferably the day before you get ready to load up to go camping. There's some temperature adjustment on this fridge, 1 being the warmest, 5 being the coldest. I usually leave it on 3 or 4, but you might find you need to adjust that depending on the ambient conditions. To shut off the fridge, press and hold the on button for 3 seconds. Below the fridge is your power converter. This is the power center for the entire trailer. So here's where you'll find your breakers for your 110 volt circuits and your fuses for your 12 volt circuits. You've got 15, 20, and 40 amp fuses in this trailer. And we do recommend having some spare fuses on hand. It's not uncommon in an RV to blow a fuse. So if you've got some spare fuses, it won't be a big deal if you need to change one out at the campground. The power converter can make a little bit of a buzzing or a humming sound sometimes. It's perfectly normal. It's just when it's operating under heavy load, it's got a cooling system in there. Right here is your control panel or your monitor panel for your solar panels. So you can see right now your battery is at 14.4 volts, which is 100%, and your solar panels are charging at 37 watts. The actual solar controller is mounted, I believe, in the front storage compartment. This is just a remote panel to show you the status of your battery and solar charging system. Thermostat is over here on the back wall. So the thermostat controls both the heating and cooling system for the RV. For the cooling system, you'll need to be plugged into power, which we're not right now, but you can switch the system over to fan to just run the air conditioning fan, or cool to run the air conditioner itself. And if you're on the automatic setting, it'll cycle on and off as needed by the thermostat. If you're on the on setting, that fan will just run constantly. And there's high and low fan speeds. Your heat, your furnace fan only has one speed, so if you turn the system over to heat, you can turn the thermostat up to whatever temperature you're comfortable at. The furnace fan kicks on immediately, but it's going to be 10 or 15 seconds before the burner actually lights up. And we should be able to hear that when it happens. Just like so. Not sure if you could hear that in the video, but the furnace burner is now lit, and if we give it a few seconds, we would have warm air blowing from our vents. Once it comes up to temperature, or you shut off the system, the exact same thing happens, only in reverse. The burner goes out immediately, but that furnace fan is going to keep running for 30 seconds up to a minute just to go through its cycle. So I'll shut that off for now. Below the thermostat is your carbon monoxide detector. So this is actually a combination carbon monoxide and propane detector. So it could do three things. It could alert you to a potential propane leak. If that was the case, you would almost certainly smell the propane before the alarm went off. It could alert you to a carbon monoxide situation, in which case you wouldn't smell anything. Or the third and most common thing that it could do is alert you to a low voltage situation. This is wired into the RV's 12-volt electrical system. So if your RV battery gets very low, this will chirp or alarm just like a smoke detector would when its battery gets low. So if this starts going off and making noise, it's not necessarily alerting you to a propane or carbon monoxide situation. It could be something as simple as a low battery. Here in the bathroom, a couple of things to cover. You've got a notable power outlet in here. This is your GFI outlet. So just like the outlets in the bathroom of your home, it has a test and reset button on it. The only difference in an RV though is this power outlet is wired in series with many of your other power outlets. So if you're ever plugged into power with the RV but you've got no power at your outlets, first thing to check is come in here, press the reset button, and that'll reset that whole GFI circuit. You've also got your monitor panel in here. So this is where you can check the level of your battery. It shows charging because we're currently charging via the solar panel. The Freshwater is completely empty right now. Black tank is completely empty as well. And both gray tanks are empty as well. And then there's three switches underneath here as well. That's the switch to activate your water pump if you're pumping water from the water reservoir. You can also activate your hot water tank here on either propane or electricity. Remember, if you're going to use your hot water heater on electricity, there's also that second black rocker switch on the outside of the tank that needs to be turned on as well. To light the tank on propane, turn the switch on. The DSI fault light comes on, showing that the burner is not currently operating. But if we give that just a second, just like the furnace, we should hear the DSI spark and that burner light up. Just like so. So now, if we gave that 20 or 25 minutes for the water to come up to temperature, we would have hot water in our system. The hot water tank valves can be accessed from the back, either by removing the plywood panel at the back of the bed, or by removing this access panel right here. There's two screws on each side to remove this access panel, and you'll be able to gain access to the back of the hot water tank. On the back of that hot water tank will be two valves that you can close to isolate the tank from the system, so that you can pump antifreeze through your cold water lines, through the bypass line and through your hot lines without filling that water tank with antifreeze. What else? The smoke detector. We talked about the carbon monoxide propane detector. You also have a smoke detector here. A little difference there with the smoke detector is it is not wired into the RV's 12-volt electrical system, so it has its own 9-volt battery, and you'll need to test that periodically. You can test it by just pressing and holding on the test button until you hear the beep, and you know that the battery isn't dead. Haven't spoken about your RV sewer system. So anytime you're using the sewer system in the RV, you'll want to use a good potent RV toilet chemical. The chemical comes in tablet, liquid, or powder form. We sell all three in our parts and accessories department. When you go to add chemical to the tank, open up a package of chemical, pour it into the bowl. Use the foot flush, push halfway down on the foot flush to fill the bowl with water, and then dump the whole works down into the tank. It's important to note that that chemical needs some water to activate it. So every time you put new chemical into the tank, make sure you put some water down with it. And you'll want to add new chemical to that tank immediately after every time you dump the black holding tank. So when you finish dumping the black holding tank, come in here, add some new chemical, and it should be good until the next time you need to dump the holding tanks. I think we're just about done here. In the master bedroom, not a lot to cover. There is a second TV location here on the wall. If you're going to add a TV bracket here, make sure you don't use screws longer than 2 inches. The wall's only 2 inches thick, and make sure to hit a stud. You've got the TV backer location sticker here, seems to be in pretty much the right spot, but you've got 2x2 wood studs every 16 inches or so in this wall. Just make sure you hit a stud for some backing for that TV bracket. And then you also have an emergency escape window here in the bedroom. To open the emergency escape window, just push the arm out like so. It can latch open just for some airflow. If you do need to use it as an exit, it hinges all the way up for the exit. And I think that pretty much covers it. Hopefully you've learned something about the 2019 Sportsmen LE 281 BHKLE. If you have any questions, you can always get a hold of us here at Trailblazer, or you can check our website, trailblazerrv.com. Thanks for watching.